This week in CIST 2611, we'll look at Chapter 10, Defending Against Trojan Horses, Spyware, and Adware. And so in this chapter, the objectives are to describe Trojan horses, take the steps to prevent a Trojan horse attack. We'll also look at the what spyware is and using anti-spyware software, and also creating anti-spyware policies. All right, so this chapter is going to provide a detailed description of Trojan horses and the methods for protecting against them. Throughout this chapter, you will learn various software products and how they can use to prevent Trojan horses attacks. This chapter will also discuss spyware in detail, and will introduce you to anti-spyware products and removal techniques as well. All right, so we have previously discussed Trojan horses in Chapter 2. A couple things, ways that a Trojan horse acts. Some typical actions they take is it deletes files from the computer. It can spread other malware. It can use the computer to launch a DDoS. It can search for personal information, and it can also install a backdoor to the computer. Now, one of the backdoors that can be installed is a back orifice. This allows control over TCP, IP. It's entirely self-installing. It can be attached to legitimate applications. Will not appear in the task list. One of the ways to remove this is through the registry. That's the best way to remove it. And your book actually walks you through step-by-step of how to remove this. So what this is, it's a remote administration system. What it does, it allows a user to control a computer across the TCP IP connection. And they're using a simple console or a GUI application. A lot of times this gets installed because the users will think that they're installing a benign administrative utility. So they download it thinking it's something that's going to help them, and it's actually giving control over to a remote user. Some people will download it though, not even realize that they're downloading it. So it's basically giving the user, a remote user, the control of the target machine, and a lot of times the remote user will have more control than the person who actually downloaded the back orifice and installed it. Another type we're going to talk about is NetBus. This is similar to the back orifice. Now on this one, it only works on port 20034. So what it does, it gives the remote user complete control over the infected machine, just like they were sitting at the keyboard and had full admin rights. The textbook does walk you through steps to remove NetBus from the registry, which is how you would remove this from your computer. Now, this tool is a remote administration tool. You also heard them referred to as a RAT. Now, once again, it only operates on port 20034. Once again, gives them full control, just as if they were sitting at the computer. Now, Linux Trojan horses. You'll hear some security professionals claim that non-Microsoft systems are more secure than Microsoft systems. You'll hear this about Apple. There was a false claim for years that you couldn't get a virus on an Apple. Same with Linux. The truth is that there was not a big enough market share that made it worth the time for the attackers to try to write the viruses to those codes, to those products. They existed, but it wasn't a big enough target. Now this is something that is changing as more people are using Linux, more people are using Apple devices. So the Linux Trojan horses, one of them was released in 1999, was a typical backdoor Trojan horse. We don't know how many systems were compromised with this. When a Linux Trojan horse is installed, a lot of times the program is going to go to the bins/login and it's going to be altered. Some of the changes in this may be that it's includes code to send the email to the Trojan horse creator. It can contain the host login information and their login name of any of the users logging in. Portal of Doom, once again, your book does walk you through how to remove a Portal of Doom. What this does, it's a backdoor tool that allows remote users to do some items such as open and close a CD tray, shut down the system, open files and programs. They may be able to access drives, change passwords, log keystrokes, or take screenshots. Keep in mind, this is not a comprehensive list of everything that the Portal of Doom can do. But once again, if you have these things happening, there are steps to remove this in your textbook. Now, how to know if you're infected by a Trojan horse? There are some symptoms, such as the home page of your browser changes, changes to your passwords, usernames, accounts. I'm going to come back to the screensavers, but you can also have changes to mouse settings, backgrounds, or devices that seem to work on its own, such as your CD door. You may be infected with a change to screensavers. I do want to point out that with Windows 10, it periodically will cut off your screensaver. It's a known issue with Windows 10 to where you'll set the screensaver and it may or may not retain that settings or revert those settings later on. All right, so there are some preventive measures you can take to prevent Trojan horses. Some of the technological measures is block unneeded ports. Now keep in mind, remember that NetBus worked on using port 234. So if you block that, anything that's on that system, if you block the 234 on all your servers, workstations, and routers, then you cannot really be affected by NetBus. So if you do have a network machine that's infected with NetBus, it cannot send that information out because that port is blocked. Antivirus software is another way to reduce the dangers of a Trojan horse attack. A lot of your antivirus programs have the definitions for known Trojan horses, so they check for those. So you want to make sure that you keep your antivirus software up to date and that you use it. Prevent active code in browsers can help you reduce the risk of Trojan horses. So it may be a thing to stop certain types of animation being played, so it stops a avenue for Trojan horses to be introduced in the system. At minimum, you need to have your browser warn the users and get their approval prior to any of the active code running. As we talked about in the past about the principle of least privilege, this is something that you should follow as preventing Trojan horses as well, to limit the user's rights to just what is needed. So if the user doesn't need to install software, you don't give them the right to install that software, so then they cannot install the Trojan horse, or it becomes more and more difficult for them to inadvertently install a Trojan horse. All right, there's some policies that will help in fight Trojan horses. These are some general rules. Never download any attachments unless you're absolutely certain they are safe or expected. If a port is not needed, close it. Do not download browser skins, toolbars, screensavers, or animations, along with other items such as calendars and things of that nature. Ask your IT department to scan any needed downloads before you use them. And also be cautious of hidden file extensions. Now, in the next slide, we're going to look at some common ports used by Trojan horses. If these ports are not needed for any legitimate application, you need to make sure that you close these ports, along with any port that is not needed. All right, spyware and adware, this is becoming more and more intrusive. It can cause systems to crash. It's made to gather information and send it to third parties or generate pop-ups not detected by pop-up blockers. So the primary difference between spyware and adware is what they do to your machine. All right, so they're both going to affect your machine in the same same manner. What happens is spyware seeks to get the information from your machine and make it available to some other person, while adware will create a pop-up ads on your machine. These ads are not going to be generated by web browsers, so many of your traditional pop-up blockers will not stop them. All right, so two examples of spyware and adware examples is Gator. This is probably the most widely known adware product, and usually it's going to be distributed with a variety of free software packages. Now, once it's installed on your computer, it's going to send you pop-up ads, and the company's going to make money off selling those pop-up ads. Red Sheriff, now that's spyware, it's not adware. So this is going to be loaded into a Java applet. It's going to be embedded in a web page you visit. Now, once you visit that web page, that applet's going to collect information about how long you stayed on that web page, what links you viewed, and then that information is going to be sent to its parent company. This is something you're going to see a lot of ISPs have started putting this on their homepage, and it's programmed to load every time the user logs into the internet. Now, the problems with Red Sheriff is, one is no one is certain what data is collected except for the manufacturer, and also nobody knows what is really done with that data. And then you also have the negative issue of that many people do not like having their website usage monitored. Two popular applications for anti-spyware include SpySweeper and Zero Spyware. There are others. You can research and compare products online. This gives you 3 different things to look for. You can also search on Google. There are some policies that you can follow for anti-spyware. First, never download any attachment you're not certain is safe. That is a general policy that's good to follow for all types of behavior on the internet. Whether it's through your email, through a website, you do not download the attachment. Configure your browser to block cookies, or at least the third-party cookies. You also want to configure your browser to block scripts that run without user awareness. And also use browser pop-up blockers. There are a lot of them out on the market, some free, some paid. Most of them are plugins. Chrome has a pop-up blocker you can install. Your cell phone, you have different types of pop-up blockers you can install as well. So we've talked about the dangers of downloading applications. So if you're uncertain of their safety, don't download an application, a browser scan, screensavers, or utilities. Also, we want to block Java applets, or at least require manual approval for this. To sum up Chapter 10, keep in mind both Trojan horses and spyware pose significant dangers. You want to make sure that you have virus scanners and the appropriate policies um, set up, and that's your protection against Trojan horses and spywares. Keep your antivirus software up to date. You want to make sure that you develop and implement anti-Trojan horse policies, and that your users of your organization are trained on those policies. Spyware can compromise security, so confidential information can be compromised by spyware. Keep in mind that the main goals, the three facets of uh, information security is to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Adware is going to be more of a nuisance than a security threat, um, but it can be to where it can make the computer system unusable. So you want to make sure that you remove adware as well. You have many different utilities that can protect against Trojan horses, such as antivirus software. You also have utilities that protect against spyware and adware. And use those in conjunction with your policies to further protect your system.